Hey, what up squad, it's your boy K-Flow, and in this video we're going to be wrapping up the repair of the truck by reinstalling the headliner and the front seat belts. Now let's get this thing started. Real quick guys, I just want to give a very big shout out to TJ. Thank you so much for the very generous beer donation to this channel. And here's what we're drinking today guys. Another one from Cape May Brewing Company, and this time it's one of their coffee stouts. It's very fitting because I am shooting this video in the morning and I haven't actually eaten anything yet. But it calls for a celebration. This content is definitely made possible because of people like you. So cheers TJ, and cheers to all my subscribers. Thank you guys so much for all these years of supporting this channel. That is delicious. Hopefully this edit comes out okay. So this is part 7 of getting the Taco back onto the road guys. And if you're new to this series and new to this channel, let's just say I took my truck on a little bit of an adventure. So in this series, we repair the truck and make things just a little bit better. And just to give you guys a little bit of a recap. So in part 1, we did remove those front seat belts and the airbag module and sent them out to a company to refurbish them. In part 2, we removed the headliner and cut out those deployed side curtain airbags. In part 3, we remove and replace that broken side view mirror on the driver's side. In part 4, we install the sound deadeners on the roof. In part 5, we install new side curtain airbags and the airbag module. In part 6, we repair and reupholster that headliner. And I have to say, that thing looks awesome. So in this video, we reinstall the headliner and also add some provisions for future projects. Now let's get to the truck. Hey guys, I just wanted to quickly go through a little bit of the setup before we do the installation of that headliner. I do have the upper trim removed and it's just put to the side right now so that we can tuck the headliner underneath there before we put that trim piece on. Also guys, I wanted to point out I currently have a spool of wire which is not connected to anything. Starting from here, it's going behind this part of the frame and up that pillar, and as you can see it's also zip tied to that current wire bundle. Up that pillar, taped to the ceiling. It's basically taped with Gorilla Tape going around the driver's side and then over to this part of the ceiling and back down. And I also have another wire coming from there going up to the ceiling, taped to the ceiling, and it's hanging out right here. And the reason for this extra wiring is basically because I wanted to put a fuse box somewhere in this back panel, and I haven't figured that out yet. And I want that fuse box to basically be a good source of 12 volts, so that fuse box will be routed directly to the battery, and that fuse box will also feed that wire with some power, which could power anything in the front, which could be things from lighting to other electronics, as well as this middle section here. So that's why I have those extra spool of wires guys. So I just wanted to point out I also installed these riv nuts on this rail and this rail. I've only done it on the passenger side for now, so I am going to do it on the driver's side. And what these are basically rivets with threads inside them, so that allows us to mount stuff onto it. And I'll show you how to use the riv nut tool so you guys can get a little bit of an understanding. So this is what the tool looks like guys. It will come with a few attachments on the type of riv nuts you want to use. And the one we're using right now, it's pretty much a 1/4-20 because that is the riv nut that fits in the holes. So in order to set this up, we take this tool, right, and we undo this upper piece so it exposes this collar, and this collar you can push down, and we'll take our 1/4-20 kit, I guess if you want to call it that. So open that up. I'll come with a threaded piece. So we just thread that into the tip, pull the collar down, threading, and then make sure we can back off so that the collar completely locks that hex portion of that tool. Then we could take this piece and then reinstall it onto the tip of the tool. Make sure it sits all the way down. You can also use the tool that comes with to tighten down that nut. And then we have another nut that came with this 1/4-20 kit. We'll just tighten that down too. You don't have to go too crazy. There we go. And the tool's pretty much set up. And the way this tool works is basically you take your rib nut, which looks like this. And if you know how rivets work, this thing gets squished. Once it's squished, it's locked in place. So the way it accomplishes that is this gets threaded all the way in, just like that. And then you squeeze this. I'm gonna take this off so that you see what happens. When you squeeze this, this actually squishes the rib nut from the end, and it squishes it downwards. So when this squishes, this lower portion expands and locks it in place. And this piece also has a little unthreading tool. So this thing that you pull in the bottom allows you to unthread the tip. So I'll get a closer look. You can see when you're pulling the thing up and down, it pumps it. So it allows you to thread it, unthread once it's been installed. All right guys, so we have the tool opened all the way. We thread the rib nut all the way down. Make sure it's threaded by hand all the way down. Then we take it right to the hole like this. And we squeeze it until we can't squeeze it anymore. Open it back up, and we take this part of the tool, thread it back into itself, and then pull it. And that's how you install a rib nut. And we'll just repeat it one more time here and one more time here.
If the tool won't unthread from the pumping, you can just spin the bottom of the tool to undo it completely from that rib nut.
So for these rib nuts, guys, what I'm going to do is install these carriage bolts. Just finger tighten them for now and have them kind of stick out just like that on all the rib nuts. So these are carriage bolts I already had on hand, guys. So the idea here, guys, would be to add some paint onto the heads of these carriage bolts so that I can mark the back side of the headliner to drill out which holes to make so that I can use these mounting points. All right guys, it's about time we put the headliner back into the truck. So right now I have these two chairs pushed all the way in. I also have the rear chairs folded down.
I just did the reverse of the removal and just very carefully folded the headliner in half in order to fit it through that back seat.
And there's the headliner, guys. So you can see no damage at all. The thing is, you definitely would want to do this when it's like semi-warm outside. It's roughly in mid-60s right now, so that at least the fiberglass is pretty pliable. So this part will be a little bit hard to film, but what I'm gonna do is try to mark the back of this.
I'm using a paint pen and I generously apply that paint so that it stays wet right on the heads of those bolts. I am using the dome-like cutout on that headliner as the centering point.
Nice, looks like it worked, guys. We got some rough markings. I'm gonna drill out. Should be good to go. Guys, so I am going to cut the holes just a little bit oversized so that I at least have some tolerance and some play to find them a little bit later. And I'm also going to remove these carriage bolts up top.
I did use the front seats and extended the headrest in order to prop up the headliner at the front.
Alright guys, so first we'll start with the installation of the trim here at the C-pillar. And as I said earlier, we just pushed it to the side.
I did end up taking that trim off again because I did miss those two plastic tabs here from earlier. So I removed those tabs, reinstalled it onto the trim, and then reinstalled that whole trim back onto the truck.
And now it's just a matter of lining up all the holes. And this is a 10mm socket, guys.
Full details of the C-pillar trim, removal, and installation is actually in another video, and I'll link that down below.
And those two lower ones are also 10mm. And we just snap it in place just like that, guys. And if you forgot the screws up top, guys, it's not a big deal. You can always undo them through the fabric. So far we got the back semi-secure, and now we can put in this front trim. So we'll have to remove all the screws that we had stowed there, which is for the grab handle, and then we'll install the trim. So let's do that now. And I'm also removing the two screws for the visor, guys, and because I do have it stowed up there. So there is a little hole here that we'll have to ensure we line up the tabs on the back side of this trim. And we could install those two cover pieces. Now we can install the visor. We'll start with this hook. So we just stick it in there at a -90 degree like this, and then rotate it so that it's in the right orientation. So we'll do that now. Just like that, guys. So as for the visor, guys, it's the reverse of what we did earlier. Start with the bottom, screw that in. Keeping it loose for now. Then this top, screw that in.
Just a quick note, guys. The extra thickness of the foam will require to push a little bit harder onto it. So the trim pieces and the grab handles, you'll just need to push a little bit harder in order to compress that foam to get the mounting holes lined up and the screws lined up.
And that's it, guys. So for now, I'm just going to tuck all of these wires behind, as we won't be using them yet. And we can install this front piece here. First, make sure we put the harnesses back in. Don't forget, we also have to put in that one screw up top here. Now we can work on this side curtain airbag clip, guys. It's basically just a little plastic bracket. So the seat belt will come like this, basically in a plastic wrap when you get it back from myairbags.com. There will be this little plastic tab to keep it from rolling in. Make sure you don't take that off yet, guys. Install this first and then take this off. So I'm just gonna unthread the bolts that I had on there before, and that's the lower bolt and the upper bolt for the seat belt. It's a good place to stow them there in the meantime, so that's what I did. So lower part goes in first, and just line up the little tabs on the bottom there for now. We'll put in the one bolt up top, and then just drive that down, and we'll snug it down, and we'll just keep it like that for now, guys. We're not gonna install that bottom bolt yet. And also don't forget to put the little wiring harness. Now we will have to install this upper bracket of the seat belt. I'll take this nut off first. We put this upper bracket in, and make sure that when you install it that the seat belt lays flat like that. And we can snug this down with a 14mm socket. Right now I'll keep it at the lowest settings so that we can line up the plastic piece, which is the trim that goes over. So we'll fish the seat belt through, and then we'll line up the holes and then just slam her down. Also make sure that this can move up and down. And we can now install these two 10mm bolts at the bottom. And these are on plastic anchors, so you don't want to over tighten these things. So just snug them down. So if the plastic clip stays back, just make sure you pry it out, just like what I did. And then we can finally remove this plastic bracket here. Just make sure you keep track of the opposite end. And now we can put down the lower trim piece and just line up the holes, slam everything down, and we can take the ribbon of the seat belt, just make sure we orient it properly, and we can install this lower bolt. And this is a 14mm bolt, and we just snug it down. And we can also reinstall the lower cover for the seat belt. So now we can install the grab handles, guys, and these are just two 10mm bolts. Now we can install the weather stripping around the door as well as the lower trim. We will have to do that for both the front and the rear. And we can also install this dome light bracket. Don't forget to plug it back in. So there's the dome light, guys. I'm not installing the cover or the light yet because I am designing something. And I'm also not installing the two hangers that go back here because I am going to be using those mounting points for something else. Now I am going to vacuum the ceiling real quick, guys, and then we can do some B-rolls. So I think that pretty much wraps up the repair portion of the series. And I do love that contrast, guys. Let me know what you guys think. I know everybody has their own differing opinions when it comes to how they build their truck. But having that contrast between the black ceiling and the gray trim, I think looks amazing. So just a few last minute thoughts here too, guys. Having that foam backed headliner material actually does add a little bit more sound deadening to the sound deadening layers of that fiberglass material. So
the cabinet is definitely much quieter. And some of my future projects for the ceiling, obviously I have those rib nuts that I left on there, so I can mount some stuff on there and design some molly panels. I still haven't really figured that out. And I also have the wires that I have feeding through the dome light as well as the front side of the ceiling for other electronic installs. But I'll figure that out at some point in the future. I do have some other projects that I want to tackle first, and that also includes removing the floor liner and adding some sound deadener there, and try to see what else I can improve in terms of storage and anything else regarding camping and recovery gear. So let me know what you guys think about this whole series so far, and if there's any ideas that you guys have for me to mount on the ceiling or electronic wise to mount on that ceiling as well, just let me know in the comments below. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that like, subscribe, and hit that bell too while you're at it. Thank you guys for all the support. Until next time, peace out, y'all.